Hello and welcome back to my channel, and welcome back to my Dune Awakening content. So today I want to do something that is not really very original because a lot of people have already done it, but I think it's still something that's worth doing because it can help people that may not have seen the other people's content, that only have seen mine, to kind of get an idea of what they might want to consider doing at the start of the game. So what we're looking at here is an image of Haga Basin South. This is the starting area, and this has been determined to be a map of that zone of the starting area. So basically this, when you load into the game, you're going to load in here somewhere probably around this area, I think, in the bottom. And you have to start your story, and then you're free to take off and interact with the world. So at this point, your ship has crashed, your ornithopter has crashed, and you wake yourself up delirious in the sands, and you're on the run, and there's a sandworm coming. So you have to get to some shelter, to some rocks, to a place where you're safe from the sandworm. But in looking at the starting map, we can kind of get an idea of what we may want to consider doing. Now, you're totally free to figure out what you want to do versus my plans, but as far as I know right now, I think what I got going is kind of the best idea for me personally. Now, this all could change once we get more information about the starting area and where it kind of leads you to, because the story could lead you in a direction completely different from what I'm assuming is going to happen. I'm not really sure if this is kind of free form where you can make your own path, or the story will kind of direct you in a certain direction type of thing. I'm not really sure, but let's look at this map and let's kind of dig into it a little bit. Now keep in mind, without any kind of actual play experience, I'm just going off of what I'm seeing on YouTube from other content creators, and so I may be way off base here with my thinking, but from my experience from past MMO style games and survival style games, I think I can kind of pretty much come up with a pretty decent plan of action. From what I understand, I think these icons right here were from a streamer that had this map location, and they had put down a couple of their bases right at the start. So I think these icons kind of represent bases in a way, and the other things like these are resources. But I'm seeing one of the points of interest right here as the wreck of the Alcyon. This right here, from what I understand, is supposed to be one of the very rare examples of a PvP enabled zone in Haga Basin South. Haga Basin South is supposed to be the starting PvE zone where you would start, and for the most part, like 98.9 or something like that %, the map is PvE content only. But in this one location right here, I think this, as far as I know, is the only PvP enabled area. And once you enter this little zone right here around the wreck, you get a pop-up notification saying, hey, you're getting into a PvP zone, be aware of that, so you can decide to either bail out or push forward, depending on what you want to accomplish. Me personally, it depends. If I'm coming at the game on Head Start alone and I'm pushing solo, then I am going to be focused on advancing my character, advancing my skills, finding the resources I need to build a sand bike, and then immediately starting to focus on finding the resources I need to build an ornithopter. One of my main goals right at the start is to get that ornithopter going. Well, first I want to get the sand bike going so that I can have mobility to move around this whole area with ease. because from everything that I've seen, running on the sand is going to be a very dangerous activity. You can probably skirt between these two little areas right here and get through safely, but you're not going to want to run this whole area on foot and take your chances with the sandworm, because that's going to end badly. You might be able to run across from here to here and then run along this rock outcropping and then maybe jump across right here at the narrowest point. But if you try to just traverse the sands on foot, you're going to get eaten. And when you get eaten by a sandworm, you drop your bag and everything. You lose everything. So if you're like me and you're trying to accumulate resources, that's not a good idea. So the main thing you want to do right off the bat is you want to put down a temporary small shelter, just something big enough to where you can get some storage and you can get some, like a blood refining station to transfer it into water if you need to, and possibly a fabricator so that you can make speed bike parts, sand bike parts. And that's going to be pretty much about it, because you're not going to want to put down roots here forever. So in my opinion, if we're going to have the ability to make two different houses, I think I'm going to focus putting one of my houses in Haga Basin South to start with. Now, I'm not going to worry about trying to build a palatial palace right off the bat and spending days and days gathering granite and whatever else I need to do those chome building pieces to build a 5-level mansion that completely encompasses my whole build range from my 5 console. I'm not going to worry about that. I'm going to, at the start, throw down my build console, my 5 console, so that I can capture a spot of land, and then I'm going to put up a basic little structure so that I can begin the process of exploring and looking for resources and sourcing out those resource nodes. Because to build a sand bike, I don't know what's going to be required, honestly. I probably could watch a bunch of crafting videos and get the components nailed down completely, but that's not really going to do me a lot of good right now because I don't know where those components can be gathered. So it really, even if I knew exactly what it took, it wouldn't do me a lot of good because I won't know what it takes to make it. But this area right here is supposed to be the starting area, and then I think it is designed to where you as the player push forward, kind of push this way. And let me see if I can figure out how to mark this up. Okay, after fiddling around, I finally figured out how to do it. But I think you as the player are designed to kind of move in this direction. From the starting area, which is pretty much this right here. I think you're designed to kind of move this way once you progress. But depending on the resource nodes that are in the area, it may be beneficial to just set up a temporary base here for now so that you can have somewhere to store and collect materials and get yourself set up to where you can build that first sand bike. Because once you get that bike going, then you'll be able to just kind of traverse around everywhere you need to go safely, really without kind of having to worry about the sandworm so much. It is going to still eat you if you get caught by it on the bike, but you have a lot more speed and you have a lot more ability to evade it with that bike than you do on foot. Ultimately, your goal is to build that thopter so you can get up off the ground and you can go anywhere you want. And that's my ultimate goal at the start, is to get that thopter built. But you have to go in stages. You have to progress in stages. You have to start, you have to get your footing, you have to locate resources, you have to build that first small base so that you can have somewhere to collect resources, and you need to store them up and then create your bike and then get more mobile to where you can do more things and collect more resources. Find out which one of these little area points of interest actually hold the components you need, type of thing, and which of them are areas that possibly you find new quest givers that can give you rewards, like possibly parts for your bike. You know, if you do this quest for them, you'll need to adventure and explore those things to try and figure them out. But if you see the layout, you see that the quest type stuff is just kind of in this circular ring. You've got the points of interest spread out along this area in kind of a circular ring. So me personally, I think the smartest thing to do is to set yourself up. If you're going to be trying to visit all these things, you wouldn't want to build your base right here. In other words, you know, you wouldn't want to build your base right here, because then you're going to have a huge travel time to everywhere you need to go to get to something. So what I think is the smartest thing to do is to build your base in an area like right here, or right here, or maybe right here. Somewhere that is more centrally located to all the different points of interest that you could possibly be, you know, checking out from these areas. If you wouldn't want to build in this area, because obviously the sandworm will come and eat your house, but you need to build along the rocky outcroppings. That way you can have the protection of the rocky base underneath your structure to make sure that the worm doesn't eat you and eat your house, so that all your hard work goes down the drain. So with the idea of eventually being able to push into this area of the map, which I wish we could see more, but we really can't at this time because we don't really know what's this way. I don't know when you cross a border and you're flying in your thopter, do you actually get to the point that you're in the overworld map where it shows the little thopters buzzing around to the different areas of the map, so that you can get to the PvE cities and then possibly the deep desert when you get ready. I don't know where that actually comes about. I assume there's some sort of border that you cross, that when you go through it, you mesh into another server and then become part of that overland map until you decide on a location that you're going to go to, like one of the PvE cities that have the exchange and the player interaction and stuff like that. Or do you just, you know, go hog wild and head straight for the deep desert? I don't know. It just depends on you and your goals. But with the mindset of being able to move out of this map as soon as possible, you want to be efficient. So personally, I think I'm going to shoot for an area like right here, or something like this. I'm going to shoot for a region like that, so that when I put down my 5 console, the proportions may be completely off, but the 5 console seems to give you a square build radius that you can claim as your own. I'm going to say that, you know, my base is possibly going to be somewhere around here to start with, and then I'm going to build my little structure on the inside of my zone, and just big enough to where it's enough that I need at the start. Just big enough to where I can say that I have enough storage to hold the resources that I'm going to gather. Because if I have my base right here, let's say, and I've noticed that here, and here are good resource nodes, like a lot of granite nodes, a lot of scrap metal, then I can go from there and harvest all these resources close by. Something that can, you know, I can do over and over and over multiple times to build up that base of resources that I need to get that stock of supplies to be able to build stuff. So, you know, you have to pay attention to seeing what's in your area, locating those nodes, figuring out where's the best paths to go to get to them, the safest paths, and then start to collect that material so that you can build your first sand bike and get more mobile. So that's kind of what I'm thinking. Don't really know how these different individual points of interest are going to play out, because I don't exactly know what they are at this time. I think this is some kind of scientific observatory, so that may be something that's interesting to really kind of interact with on a PvE level, get some of the story or something and some good loot. There would be some good loot here probably, I'm sure, and then maybe the rest of these are just like quest givers or people you can talk to, or points of interest that hold lore. Not really sure what each of these stand for. I wish I knew what these stood for, because that would be interesting to know. These are obviously resources, but they're not showing up on the map, so I don't know if it's something that doesn't show up until you do a scout probe. That could be quite possible. So there is a mechanic. Yeah, let's talk about that. That's a good idea. There is a mechanic called a scout probe, and it's something that you need to get to a high elevation and then launch the scout probe up in the air, and it does a scan of the map area that you're in, and it fills in all these points of interest for you. So if I climb up to the top of this area and launch my scout probe from like right here, then it, however big the radius is that it scopes out, it's going to fill in these points of interest for me on my map. If I get my generic Basin Haga Basin South map at the start and it has no points of interest labeled whatsoever, then I know I'm going to need to do that scout probe so that I can fill in where these points of interest are, which is something that we may have to do right off the bat to actually get to a place where you know what's worth doing and where you want to go, type of thing. But that's kind of my general plan. Now, that's if I'm mainly playing solo, but I am trying to build a guild, or a tight-knit squad of people that are interested in playing the game kind of the same way I am. I'm looking at building a team of people that are interested in doing a lot of PvE content, and then also interested in doing some PvP content as well. I would like to build a squad of trusted people that I can go into those kind of situations with and know that they have my back, and that we have each other's back, and we utilize good team tactics with a mix of player styles and skills so that we can excel in many different situations. So if I am able to get those people to do the head start, then we may be focusing as a guild more on the content and less as a solo type player. If we do that, then we may focus on trying to get, if we have multiple people playing together, that would help, because then we could do these type of areas a lot easier. We would have a squad to go into a PvP type area and focus on getting that kind of good loot. We could do this PvE research station content a lot easier, because we would have 2 or 3 people, 4 or 5, who knows how many, and we would be able to go in there and kind of own that content and take that loot. And then we would have multiple people that could spread out and do resource gathering at all these other different places, if that's what these are, and then come back to base with the resources and dump them in the storage box. And then our dedicated crafter people begin the process of trying to put together some 2-seated speeder bike, sand bike type things that have 2 seats on them, to where we can carry multiple people, and then worry about building everybody their own individual thing so they can kind of branch out and do their own thing, with the mindset of trying to make sure that the guild as a group can progress. So it could go either way. It just depends on how many people I'm able to recruit, how serious they are as far as the pre-order that they purchase, and if they're planning on being there on the early access like I am. I've already taken off days from work so I can be there that whole 5-day period, because I've got Thursday and Friday and Saturday, Sunday, and Monday off. So I'm going to be there for 5 full days. So it's going to be glorious. But that's kind of what I'm looking at. If I'm going to go solo, I'm going to go, the mindset to get myself ahead and find ways to do this as a solo player. If everybody wants to jump in together and everybody will agree to join the same version of the Haga Basin South map, which, you know, it'd be like server number 35 or whatever. Those have a player cap of 40 people per server at one time on the map, which may mean that if we choose the one that's really super busy, we may have to wait in queue to get in, because it'll only allow 40 people at a time to be on the map. And if there's 40 people at a time crawling around this same area, resources may get a little stingy because people are going to be farming them non-stop. So that's just, you know, some of the things you want to take into consideration. Once you pick a Haga Basin South map, though, that's the one that's yours, because that's where you're going to build your house, and that's the one that every time you log into the game, when you're in that zone, you're going to log into that particular one. You can go play on other people's Haga Basin South map, but you can't build there, and I'm not really sure if you can join content with them and form groups or anything like that. So that's going to be one of the things that I don't really like about the development of this game. I'm not really too cool with how they've designed their Haga Basin PvE setup, with only allowing 40 people at a time on the map at any one time. So especially when a guild can have as many as 32 members is what we have been told so far, that the maximum cap of the guilds are at the start of the game is 32 slots. That's almost a full Haga Basin map right now, right there. So if you get everybody in your guild to agree to join the same map so you can all do content together, what happens when 80% of your guild wants to be online? Can they get online or not? It's really kind of distressing situation, and I'm really hoping that that doesn't turn around and bite Funcom in the butt. But we'll see. They're saying they're doing this because they want to control the player experience and make sure that players don't have a bad experience as far as connectivity and lag and things like that. But if you can't let people play with who they want to play with, then you're restricting their gameplay, and that's a bad thing. So I don't know which one's worse, having a little bit of lag or being able to play with my friends when I want to. That is going to be something we'll have to see in action to really find out how that works out. So anyway, that's kind of my plan at the start. I think it's fairly a reasonable, smart idea as far as what I know so far with the way things are laid out. This could completely all change whenever I finally get some good, accurate information, like when they do a developer dive and say, this is the map, and this is what these stand for, and this is what this stands for, blah, blah, blah. That may change the plans entirely, because you may find out that a lot of these points of interest right here are just one and done type things, that when you do them, you're done and you don't want nothing else from them, and it may not be beneficial to locate yourself around them anymore. You may want to locate over here if there's a lot of resources there, or that type of thing. So that still remains to be seen. So we're going to have to kind of see how that plays out. But this was just an idea, just a little thought video where we do this little, you know, what if scenario type thought exercise. I appreciate you being here. I appreciate you watching my content. If you've got some better ideas as far as what are good tactics to use day one, what's your day one strategy look like, let me know in the comments. I'd be interested to hear what you have to say for sure. And if you found this content interesting, or it taught you anything, or you just liked it, think about subscribing and clicking the like button so that it helps push my content out to a wider audience. I'd really appreciate it. It helps me greatly. Tick the notification bell so that you don't miss any content that I make on Dune Awakening in the future, because I'm going to be pumping out a lot of it, especially whenever we actually get in game and I can start to have interesting things to actually do and record, because right now it's just kind of conjecture, you know, because I'm not testing the game, so I have no clue what I'm really talking about. I'm just relying on past experiences and what I'm getting from other content creators that I'm seeing them make content on. So right now we're all just kind of speculating, and it's a Wild West kind of time. It's really actually kind of fun, but it will all change soon because we're only about a month away from release. So anyway, I appreciate you watching my content. It's the weekend. I hope you have a great rest of your weekend, and I will see you in another video about Dune Awakening coming soon. Thanks for watching. Peace!